You are welcome to the show, the Hoodie Guy podcast. I believe you enjoyed the previous episode on identity. Thank you very much for subscribing to the YouTube channel, and I believe you are learning so much. Drop your comments in the comment section, and then let's discuss how we can, help ourselves to get a better life. Today's episode is a very marvelous one, and you wouldn't want to miss it, because it has to do with that ability of every human being to be able to fit in any kind of life's pedestal and then any kind of status of human race. The reason why you might not be able to get into some rooms is not because of probably your family background, because there are so many people who had bad background, who had all kinds of past, who had strange and then difficult upbringing, yet they were still able to make waves. That is why today's topic is very, very important to me, because it is going to guide your life as to what you can do to earn so much, to rise above your fears and then be that successful person you want to be. On that note, I want to introduce today's topic to you as competence.
3, 2, 1.
Now, competence is a word that is less paid attention to. When we say competence, a lot of people, you can quickly bear with me and then remember it in the political sense. It is one of the words that is mostly used in a political setting. I remember in the previous elections and then in years back, in about 8 years, where the former vice president of Ghana, His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, made a statement, and I quote, he said, "We cannot live in a country where we are being ruled by incompetent leaders." And as a man who has risen high in economics, I understand from his point of view that he was just trying to describe the state of the country and then how our resources were badly managed. But I'm not trying to be political here because I don't do politics. I want to just introduce it and then add it to the subjects of discussion. Nevertheless, let's go straight to the point. Now, when we say competence, what does it mean and how does it have a direct relationship with the progress of every youth in this country or in the world as a whole? Competence is that particular feature of a human being that gives you the confidence to be able to express whatsoever subject or whatsoever discourse that is being given to you. The reason why we have experts in so many fields is simply because the word expert means someone who has been able to build core competencies at its peak. So when we call you a doctor, it's not because of the fun, but it's simply because we believe that you'll be able to diagnose illness and then prescribe the right treatment for your patients. Competence is something that you must really pay attention to, because the only thing that can give you that opportunity to express who you are is your competence. Now, reason why so many youths find it difficult to show themselves up or to be visible or to express their gift is simply because they have not built that inner tenacity, or they have not built that competence to be able to match the requirements for the work or any job. Now, would you know that Usain Bolt was able to beat the world records because he had developed so much competence? He had built, he had learned, he had run over and over again to be able to set that unbreakable record. And that is why, as a youth, one of the things that can enter you into so many rooms is your ability to build competence. Without competence, you might have all the connections. You might have all the networks. You might have access to all the big men. But once you are recruited to that work, you yourself, you are going to realize that you are not fit for the job. And that is where you can always be taken off. You can always be laid off. Now, why is competence even a matter of concern to me like that? It's simply because with competence, you can get to that point where nobody can shun you from what you are doing. Now, when we say someone is a therapist, or we give some particular names or some expert names to some things, it's simply because they've been able to maximize that particular competence to its highest peak. Now, let me explain a chain for you so that you can understand why competence is really something you should not play with. Knowledge forms an orientation, and orientation forms culture. Before you can get into the blend, or before you can get into a particular group of people, you would have to know the culture that works in that system. That is why it is very necessary to build knowledge. It is very necessary to seek knowledge. It is very necessary to be diligent in your area of expertise so that you can be able to build that competence in that area. Now, when we say that someone is diligent in his work, it's simply because the person is excellence. And one of the things that assures you of the reward of excellence is the work you put in. There is this popular saying that says, garbage in, garbage out. And that is the reason why, if you do not put so much investment into yourself, there is nothing that can speak out of you. When you start speaking, within the first 30 seconds, your audience should be able to determine whether you've been able to build so much in the area of competence. And that is why, as a youth, you must not what? Play or downplay the role of competence. Now, how do we build competence? Imagine you're a music singer or you are a musician. You know that building competence, you would have to learn so much. This is the time you read books. Now, talking about reading books, I realize that so many people do not like the subject of reading books because it gives that kind of uncomfortable vibe. Now, what are books? Books are things that carry hidden treasures. Show me a man who has a whole library and I'll tell you his value, because the value of a man is the product of the decisions he make. You make decisions based on your knowledge perspective. You make decisions based on how you perceive the world. You make decisions based on your value system and your belief system. And that is why when I hear someone who is full of profanity, I can simply tell that whatsoever thing that they are feeding in is the reason why they are able to produce such results. You might not be able to produce any kind of good result if you have not built that competence. And that is why I want to let you know that no matter where you want to get in life, once you can take your checkbox of competence, it can send you to any kind of room. Now, do you know the reason why so many people get the opportunity and then they miss or they mess it up? It's simply because they have not built that they have not built that competence to be able to match the requirement of that job. And that is why you must invest and spend so much time in building. Now, talking about building, there are so many youth who do not give chance to building. The word of God says that study to show yourself approved. Reason why that statement was made was simply because if you do not study to show yourself approved, you might be found wanting on the day of accountability. You know why you are slacking on that job? You know why it seems like you are trying so hard to please your boss, yet it is not working? It's simply because you have not built competence. Your CV can send you or can give you the job, but at the interview room, your competence is what is going to bring the value or the weight of your life in play. This reminds me of a story of a young man named Francis who was invited for an interview in Toyota, Ghana. Now, this man had the opportunity to meet and then get the position of the marketing manager of this firm. Now, what has competence got to do with this? Let me show you. When he was given the opportunity to, interview with the people or with the panelists, they asked him a question that what is your salary expectation? And he said that, oh, when I can get about 6,000 Ghana cedis or 7,000 to about 12,000 Ghana cedis, I'll be okay. And the panelists were all shocked because this is Toyota Ghana we are talking about. So how come Mr. Francis has been called to be the manager of Toyota Ghana, and the salary expectation he's mentioning is 7,000 to 10,000 range? It's simply because even though Francis has built his competence, he didn't know his worth. Now, competence is synonymous to worth. In fact, It is a dimension that once you are able to get into that level, you will be able to price your services. And reason why at times you might see a product on a shelf and then you just presume that this is fake is simply because the product developers have been able to build much competence such that they put a price quota to the product, and you are even like comfortable that, oh, okay, with this price it is not expensive. Do you know why Lamborghini do not do adverts on television? Because they believe that their audience will not be sitting watching television, and it is true. You look at the world view of rich men, they hardly watch television. And it means that Lamborghini would not do an advert on television because their target market do not watch TV. As simple and short. Back to the story of Francis. Now, when Francis was asked that, is he serious about mentioning that salary point, he was like, oh yes, I'm serious. And then one panelist did him an honor to tell him that, do you know the amount of money your assistant is taking? He said no, and the woman said that your assistant takes 30,000 Ghana cedis. That was where Francis realized that competency does not only mean that you should know or have so much knowledge about your job, but it also means that you should know the technicalities and dynamics that works around your field. For a high position or for an executive position like managing director, you should know your weight. And that is one problem we struggle with in Africa. People do not know how much they are worth, and because of that, they do not even know pricing. Now, in branding strategies or strategies to brand yourself or to brand your business or your company, there are so many things that you should put in place. The first thing is the product. Now, what is the product? Product has to do with what we call your competency. So I am trying to illustrate it from a worldview of trying to develop a product into the market. Now, when we talk of product, that is the product that what you have been able to build. Now, the second important thing has to do with pricing. Because once you are able to build your product, you should be able to know the required pricing or the value for that product. Then from product, we move towards place. And from place, you move to promotion. Now, let me explain how these 4 P's of branding have a direct relationship with competencies. Once you know the work or the value that you are putting into yourself, you should be able to price yourself accordingly. Which sends us that once you are able to build the product, your pricing should match the product competencies. And once you are from product, it goes to place. It means that one thing that really affects a human being, or one thing that really affects how you would even be seen, is your environment, your place, where you are located from, or where you find yourself. So reason why Francis didn't get a job of a marketing manager is not because he wasn't competent by skill. He was incompetent by value. He didn't know the value that he possessed. And that is why, as a youth, you have to know the environment you are. Your network determines your what? Your net worth. Which means that if you are in a circle and then you are the leader there, you should know that you are going nowhere. When your circle of friends happen to be these normal people talking about just profane things, talking about normal things, know that your life is also going to be normal. But when you can find yourself in positions or places where they are talking about solutions, talking about ideas, talking about how to make the next move, talking about big agendas, you should know that these people are looking at taking over the world or looking into the future. And that is why you should always try to cut off your association when you realize that it will not be of help to you. Your environment really plays a role in your life. So before you can be promoted, which has to do with the last 4 P's, it means you would have to change your environment. And that is why you should not only remain in the competent skill level, but you should also know that there is something as competent value level. So once you have built your competent level in the skill, you should know your value, and your value should match your skill. And once you are able to move from the value or the pricing, you should be able to quickly move to your place which is your environment, which means that when you find yourself in an uncomfortable environment, in a destructive environment, you should make sure that you move from that environment to a place that would accommodate your level of competence. And that brings us to the end, promotion. Now, before you can be promoted, it means that you've been able to fulfill the product competencies. You've been able to fulfill the pricing competencies. You've been able to fulfill the place competencies, and you will be able to fulfill the promotion competencies. The reason why you have not been promoted yet is simply because you have not fulfilled the competencies of product, you have not fulfilled the competencies of pricing, you have not fulfilled the competencies of place, and you have not been able to fulfill the competencies of promotion. I want to urge you that whatsoever thing you are doing, seek to be competent. And as I was saying earlier, learn books, read books. Make this commitment to yourself that before every month would end, at least you would read one book about your interest, about your gift, about your skills. Youth, this is your time. This is your time to show that when you are given the opportunity, you would not miss the opportunity. This is the time to show that when you are given the chance to exhibit who you are, you would not mess it around. Competence. How competent can you be? How competent can you be ready for the job market? And it is the reason why university graduates are mostly unemployed, because they learn to what? Pass the exams, and once they are able to pass the exam, they forget. It is the reason why our education system needs to be spoken about. It needs to be questioned. Why should you train people who are not employable, who do not have skills of presentation, who do not have communication skills, who do not have skills that can make them ready for the job market? Make that decision that you are going to put so much work on yourself. You are going to begin to read books. You are going to attend conferences, seminars, webinars, and all kinds of things that is going to put your competence level to a highest degree. And as I wrap up, I would want to let you know that you may get the connections into the room, but your level of competence is what is going to determine whether you are going to be sustained. This is the hoodie guy, and thank you for watching. As I always say, until you rise, I will not stop.